Welcome, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review. Today, we're going to take a look at a bourbon, the Van Winkle Lot B 12-year-old.
Yes, sir.
Dustin, this is your bottle. You brought it over before, 45.2% ABV, and we were going over what the difference was between a Pappy Van Winkle and just a Van Winkle. So for those of you that don't know, Dustin.
Yeah, so the Pappy line are generally they're older whiskeys, so it starts at the 15-year. Thus, kind of the Pappy, a little older, more statesmanly. They also will have a picture of the namesake, the Mr. Pappy Van Winkle is actually on those bottles. Whereas this one, they're saying, hey guys, this is our Lot B. It didn't quite make it to the Pappy stages, but I will say this, Mike, there is a distinct Van Winkle flavor profile that they do a fairly good job of maintaining, even if there is batch variation year to year.
And that's what we're going to get into today. Do you know what year bottling this was?
This was a 2018 bottle. I got it last year, the same time they released the 2019s. It was a weird story. Apparently, a distributor brought the bottle back, couldn't sell a Van Winkle.
Crazy talk.
Don't ask me.
Yeah, and so you were able to get your hands on this one. So a bottle you've had for a while. I've drank on it once or twice before. We worked it down a pretty nice way, so I kind of think it's hitting its stride as far as what it offers.
Yep.
And do you know what the mash bill is here as far as corn compared to malt?
So this is the high wheat mash bill that Buffalo Trace uses. They use it on all their high wheat, so it's the same mash bill as the Wellers, or at least it's rumored to be. They don't officially disclose that anywhere. I will say we'll get into the tasting notes, and I'll tell you why I think you can tell this apart from Weller.
Okay, well, let's get into it. Again, with all these bourbons, you have natural color, unshow filtered, and this nice golden kind of dark caramel hue, at least in my opinion. Dustin.
Yep, absolutely.
What are we getting on the nose, my friend?
I'm getting cherry candy right off the bat. Just coming through big old caramel and cherry. I mean, there's some oak here. There's a little bit of a very soft pastry. I mean, it's instantly making me think, boy, they added a little too much water to this.
Yeah, it isn't, it doesn't come off like some of the higher ABV bourbons that I had. It's a lot more subtle, a lot more subdued as far as the nose, but obviously you're going to get that caramel note that I get in a lot of bourbons.
Yeah, it's very classic bourbon. Very classic, and I think you do get the 12 years. There's a touch of leather, a touch of that kind of richer vanilla. Maybe you're getting into like some varnishes, but again, there's no alcohol on here at all.
Yeah, the vanilla to me with this one, it intermingles almost exclusively with the wood. Like you can't pick one out from the other. Like the vanilla and the wood kind of just go hand in hand as one solid note.
Yep, I could see that for sure, yeah.
Where then the caramel comes in?
Well, the caramel's much stronger, and again, that cherry cough drop or something there that you get on a lot of Buffalo Traces definitely coming in here.
Yeah, and you're right. At first I didn't think cherry. It was more of some type of a candy note, but it's almost like a cherry cough drop type note to it.
Yeah, now one thing you do definitely pick up on here is there is an oak overlay, and given how little alcohol you're getting, the fact that we're getting oak here tells me this is older bourbon, and it's telling me that this is going towards that Van Winkle profile. They want a little bit of oak, whereas a Weller tends to avoid the oak notes. Is
that what they kind of mean by Lot B? Is like, hey, this wasn't Lot A? So basically this is a B attempt at this whiskey. Didn't quite do it the way we wanted.
My thought process has always been that these were the barrels that didn't quite make it. So somebody went in and tried it and said, you know what, this is not the profile we want on a 15, 20, 23-year-old bourbon.
But that doesn't mean it's not good.
No.
Or that doesn't mean it may not be more towards your liking. It just means it's not what their traditional profile was going
Exactly. Again, it's all about profile.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so let's take a sip, see what we think.
So right away,
spicy.
It's the same thing you got on the nose with a little bit more spice. So we're going to go into this cherry cough drop nose. We're going to go into a lot of that vanilla. We're going to go into, I think the vanilla is a little more distinct here.
I agree.
Caramel's a little more subdued in contrast.
Still there.
Yeah, and the oak comes out even more. I think this is oakier now.
Very spicy oak.
Yeah.
It's amazing how spicy it was on the palate compared to on the nose. I really didn't get any spices on the nose whatsoever, but on the palate, like as soon as, not even when you, not even the finish, just like when you first brought it in, super spicy, super oak, tannin, spice to it.
Yeah, I mean, we should say this is a soft flavor overall. The spice is just the boldest part of it, and it hits you a little bit more of a spice bite than you maybe were expecting from the nose. But
definitely, at least for someone like me who was in a.
But if I were going to bring in, if I brought 20 bourbons in here, I think 18 of them would have just as much oomph on them. Well, for my collection, I don't have a lot of,
like whiskeys in general. But yeah, you're saying this isn't a super spicy bourbon to you, just period, from what you know.
No. I mean, if you get into some of the older Knob Creeks, you get into a lot of these like independent bottlings are coming out lately, where you're starting to see age statements in this 12-year range. This is definitely going to be light on the spice, but I will say there's more oak and spice on this than a Weller.
Yeah, this is quite a bit more oaky, and actually I appreciate that oak. I remember the Pappy 10. I haven't had it in a while, but I remember that whiskey really, really well, and it didn't have near the oak-driven experience that this one does. And I tell you what, I prefer.
Yeah, well, and so I actually got this the same day I did the full Van Winkle bourbon tasting. So I won it in a raffle during that and got it for retail.
Nice.
Yeah, and so I distinctly remember having the 2019 version of this and getting home with this one and going, wow, this one's got a lot more flavor than that 2019 did. And so that's that spice. So you don't always get as much spice on these.
Yeah, really, it has a strong flavor to it. And being only 45.2% ABV. I mean, to me, when a lot of the bourbons I try are the Bottle and Bond 50%ers. This is absolutely as much of a pow as far as the explosion of flavor on the palate. In a lot of cases, more.
I think it's there because the finish is longer. The 12 years is really doing a nice job. The finish is long, it's lingering. Because when it first hits my tongue, at the very front of the tongue, it's soft. It really doesn't hit with much. And then I get the spice on the back of the tongue, and then it kind of goes into this nice finish.
Yeah, spice on the mid-palate. It kind of hits me on the side, sort of, in the mid-palate. But yeah, it's kind of a mid-palate thing. You're right. That's why I thought initially spice hit first, because it really isn't any alcohol burn whatsoever.
Yeah, and there's not that sweetness. Like most bourbons, I get on the front of the tongue first.
Sure.
Because they're usually super, super sweet.
Yeah, this isn't really sweet at all.
No, and that's surprising because the Van Winkles are generally a sweeter whiskey. The Wheaters are generally sweeter.
Yeah, no, for as candied and as caramel forward as it was on the nose initially, there was none of that really on the palate.
Yep.
Maybe a little bit in the aftertaste, but it is just a spice bomb almost, when you first take it in. Maybe it's because it's my first drink of the day, but incredibly spicy initially.
We should note this is our first drink of the day, so we are getting this bottle at its best because
it's going to get overshadowed by
it's going to get overshadowed by anything else you drink.
But I'm impressed with it. I mean, maybe this is a starter.
It's a starter. I mean, this is actually, in my definition, this was a great starting bourbon for somebody just getting into bourbon who wants to try something with age. Unfortunately, they've become impossible to get. But this is what I feel like somebody's in their first 6 months of trying bourbon. This is the whiskey for them.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a bad choice at all. Justin, where are you at as far as the whiskey score on this one, my friend?
Mike, I'm going to go a little higher than I thought. I'm going to go an 82.
Yeah, overall whiskey score. I mean, I like this whiskey. I'm probably though about an 85. I mean, I hate to go too much lower than that because I still think an 85 is a good whiskey that I would buy. And what's this retail for? About $100?
Retail, and that's about 70, 80 bucks.
It's absolutely worth that amount of money without a question. You don't think so?
I honestly, I think the value here is about 60.
Really?
Yeah, because if you think about it, I can go out and get Knob Creek just put out a cast strength 12 year at 90. And I think that's a better whiskey.
And you can get Elijah Craig barrel proofs for about that
60,
same number,
70.
60, 70 bucks. And that is a better whiskey. I hate to always compare a bourbon to what Elijah Craig barrel proof will do.
They just put out 100 proof Elijah Craig 12 year for $60. That's 100 proof. It's 12 years.
I was wrong.
It's a better bourbon.
You're right.
And that one's somewhat available.
You're right, Justin. You talked me down. 84. Talking off the ledge. 84 out of 100 on this one. Yeah, but no, I mean, it's a solid and enjoyable whiskey. I think if I was a person who sought after these Pappies, the same thing I feel with the 10 and the 15. If you sought after these and waited years to get it and stood in lines and everything, and then you got to one of these bottles, man, I'd be disappointed.
I would be incredibly disappointed. Again, this is a bourbon I was drinking when I first got into bourbon because they were available and they were 40. They're 50, 60 back then.
Yeah, their normal Van Winkle 10 was usually about 38, 40 bucks, right?
I was paying 27 to 32 for it, depending on the proof, because back then you had a 90 and a 107.
Oh, okay.
And you always bought the 107 because it was $4 more.
Yeah, that's an easy choice to make.
Yeah.
Extremely easy. Well, anyway, we don't do bourbons very often. We do like to bring you at least bourbons that are well known that people might want to get their hands on. This, by Dustin's point, isn't probably worth retail, and it certainly, in my opinion, isn't worth going out standing in lines for and things like that. These are just pretty good bourbons that if you can pick them up on the store, great. I know that's not the case, so I guess what I'm saying is don't kill yourself.
Yeah, I wouldn't chase a guess.
These things, not worth it. We want to once again thank you for joining for another whiskey review, and Dustin, until next time, what do we wish the folks?
Happy drinking.
See you then.